Hey folks, this is Rhykker with another Diablo lore video. This is part 4 of a series in which we explore the major players in the world of Diablo. From the Nephalem, to Tyrael, to Deckard Cain, to Diablo himself. And we give a crash course on what exactly is going on, story-wise, across this series. Feel free to check out our previous episodes if you haven't, and be sure to have subscription notifications turned on to be alerted of new episodes. In our first 3 episodes, we spoke about the creation of angels and demons, their eternal conflict, how renegades from both factions came together to create sanctuary and humanity, and how there's now a secret war being waged for control of humanity. In this episode, we're going to continue where we left off, with the Sin War. But to do so, we need to introduce some additional characters. Starting with Diomedes, who was a farmer who lived in a hamlet. He had a wife and several children, and at some point a plague ravaged the countryside, killing Diomedes, his wife, and many of his children, leaving only 2 of his boys alive, Uldyssian and his younger brother, Mendeln, who had to take over the family farm. Apparently they weren't worried about the farm being infected or anything. So Uldyssian, aka Uldyssian ul Diomed, which presumably means Uldyssian of Diomedes, although his father is also Diomedes ul Diomed. So Uldyssian, the older brother, also lived his life as a simple farmer. He was pretty bitter about the whole, my whole family's dead thing, and that bitterness was mostly channeled towards the 2 major cults at the time, the Cathedral of Light and the Triune, who had done nothing to save his family. So while these 2 cults were going door to door to try to recruit new members into the Church of Latter Reset Days, Uldyssian would basically slam the door in their faces. Now one day, Uldyssian meets a mysterious noblewoman named Lilia, who pets his horse. That may or may not be a euphemism. Lilia is stunningly beautiful, and Uldyssian finds himself instantly captivated by her. One day not long after, Uldyssian runs into Lilia again in a forest, and she tells him that she thinks she saw something up ahead. Uldyssian goes to investigate with Lilia in tow, and the 2 stumble upon a body, a murdered missionary of the Triune. Lilia faints, allowing Uldyssian to heroically catch her, just like in those terrible TV dramas. He carried her to a nearby tavern where the 2 bonded. That may or may not be a euphemism. Shortly thereafter, another murdered missionary was found, this one from the Cathedral of Light. The murder weapon still lodged in his ribcage? Uldyssian's knife. Now, Uldyssian had nothing to do with the murders. And no, that's not just his defense statement, he literally had nothing to do with it. But given we're still thousands of years away from modern CSI techniques and proper defense attorneys, Uldyssian was thrown into prison to await trial. Throughout this, Lilia stands by his side, because as it turns out, while she was a noblewoman, she'd lost everything because her family refused to ally itself with either of the cults. So as Uldyssian is sitting in his cell thinking of just how screwed he is, his cell door spontaneously unlocks, as though he willed it so. This was the first sign of his emergent powers. He didn't, however, take the opportunity to escape, instead waiting his trial, which was overseen by a Master Inquisitor of the Cathedral of Light, who surely was completely unbiased. And just as that Master Inquisitor was about to declare Uldyssian guilty of the 2 murders and sentence him to a swift beheading, the Inquisitor is conveniently struck and killed by a bolt of lightning. A terrible storm quickly gathers, and in the chaos, Uldyssian makes an escape with Lilia and a couple others who stood by him. Several more Cathedral Inquisitors try to stop him, but Uldyssian's emerging powers kill them too. Now, once Uldyssian and his posse properly escape and get to a safe distance and settle down, Uldyssian starts to test out his new powers to confirm that yes, he is indeed magic now. Lilia convinces Uldyssian that his powers are a gift that he should help awaken in all of humanity, so that humanity can take control of its own fate and oppose the Triune and the Cathedral of Light, who have ruined the lives of those who refuse to join their cults. So the group traveled the world, gathering followers as Uldyssian demonstrated the potential for raw magic in humanity by healing the sick and the wounded. Those he touched who joined his following also started to manifest magic powers. Now Uldyssian named his growing following the Edyrem, which literally means those who have seen. And these Edyrem effectively became the second generation of Nephalem, Remember, the powers of the Nephalem faded because Inarius tampered with the World Stone, to the point that the Nephalem just became normal humans. Now, Uldyssian was somehow turning humans back into Nephalem. Slowly, but it was happening. Now we're going to temporarily take the focus off Uldyssian. Don't worry, we'll be back to him, because Lucian, the son of Mephisto and secret ruler of the Triune, has now taken notice of Uldyssian's emerging powers and the threat he poses to the Triune. So Lucian sends a party of minions to capture Uldyssian. But to Lucian's surprise, his minions are obliterated. Lucian starts to suspect something is afoot, so he sends a second, stronger raiding party, and in it, a minion who's able to cast a spell that removes defensive magic from a person. This second party is also destroyed, but not before that spell is cast on Lilia. And shortly thereafter, while Lilia and Uldyssian are together, euphemism, yada yada, Lucian's suspicions are confirmed. Lilia's protective spell dissipates, and her true form is revealed to Uldyssian. Lilith, daughter of Mephisto, sister to Lucian. If you already guessed this, then good job. So remember how we ended last video by saying Lilith somehow returned to Sanctuary? Yeah, she found a way to escape the void. Somehow. It's not explained. That's where Inarius had banished her to. And now that she was back, she returned to her original plan of harnessing the power of the Nephalem into a personal army against heaven and hell. But when she returned to Sanctuary, she found that the Nephalem had been transformed into a bunch of useless humans. So she traveled to Mount Ariat and cast a spell on the World Stone to undo Inarius' tampering with the World Stone and reawaken the Nephalem powers within humanity. Now, unfortunately for Lilith, she found that there was yet another roadblock to her plan, the Triune and the Cathedral of Light, which had strong followings. They would have to be dealt with before she could take control of humanity. So she hatched a diabolical plan. She found a human named Uldyssian, one who already disliked the Triune and the Cathedral of Light, and could easily be manipulated into action against them. She disguised herself as Lilia, killed 2 missionaries, and framed Uldyssian for the murders, and then tricked Uldyssian into thinking he had magic powers, when in fact it was always Lilith who was responsible for all the magic around Uldyssian. So when her disguise finally melted away and Uldyssian saw Lilith for the demon she was, Lilith tried to convince him that it was trickery by Lucian, tried to keep manipulating him like the pawn he had always been to her. But this time Uldyssian could not be swayed. So she dropped the charade and mocked him. She told him everything, how she'd used him, how she had always been the source of his magic powers, and how he was actually powerless, and she gloated. Uldyssian tried to fight Lilith, but she easily bested him, and it was clear to him now that he was indeed without any form of magic power. But Lilith did not kill Uldyssian. Whether he knew it or not, he was still her tool, her weapon. So she disappeared, leaving him wounded but alive. Now Uldyssian at this point is pretty bummed out. He's realized that he's basically a fraud now. He has all these followers, but no actual power. So as he's going through some kind of depression/midlife crisis, Lucian, in the meanwhile, is pleased that his plan worked. He managed to separate Uldyssian from his source of power. But Uldyssian, with his great following of Edyrem, still posed a significant source of political power, a force that Lucian hoped to harness for himself. So he appeared in disguise to Uldyssian and tried to brainwash him. But Uldyssian said, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, you. So Lucian gave up on that tactic and decided to just eradicate Uldyssian and his followers. And as he's just tearing through the Edyrem, Uldyssian is watching as his followers, people he cares about, are dying. And Uldyssian erupts in this burst of rage that awoke his Nephalem powers. For real this time. And he manages to overpower Lucian. Lucian, seeing his imminent defeat, begged for mercy like a little bitch, pleading that he would serve Uldyssian. And then Uldyssian pulled what was arguably the most badass maneuver in the history of Sanctuary. And he just willed Lucian out of existence. Remember, when demons die, they just respawn in hell. But Uldyssian didn't kill Lucian. He literally stopped him from existing. He told him, "You are nothing." And it was so. Now Uldyssian once again believes in himself. All he needed was some self-confidence. And now he is more driven than ever to raise an army and take out the Triune and the Cathedral of Light, once and for all. After all, the job was partly done, what with the Triune's leader, Uldyssian, being gone, right? Well, about that. After Uldyssian vanished, the Triune fell into disarray, eventually culminating in an internal struggle for leadership, when suddenly, Uldyssian returned to take command of the Triune again. Except, it wasn't actually Uldyssian. It was Lilith, disguised as Uldyssian. Oh, she's crafty as fuck. And she used her position to make a series of deliberately terrible decisions to cripple the Triune from within, making it a weakened target for Uldyssian and his followers. But something was about to happen that Lilith hadn't planned for. Something that would make her lose control of the situation. This is where we talk about Rathma again. Remember Rathma, the son of Lilith and Inarius, a first-generation Nephalem who was taken as a student by the mysterious trag'oul? Well, all this time as a student at trag'oul, he had been working to keep Sanctuary hidden from the high heavens, and to limit the influence of the burning hells, which had managed to infiltrate Sanctuary as the Triune. When Lilith returned to Sanctuary, Rathma knew it. He sensed it. Call it son's intuition. He worked with trag'oul to try to find a way to stop Lilith, and they eventually learned of Uldyssian and his brother Mendeln. Sensing Mendeln's potential in maintaining the balance, Rathma took him as his first disciple, and together Rathma and Mendeln were the first and second necromancers in all of Sanctuary. Mendeln told his brother of Rathma, but Uldyssian didn't trust the necromancer, since he was a son of Lilith and Lilith was all up in his head. Nonetheless, to help Uldyssian, Rathma teleported him to the World Stone, where Uldyssian found himself able to physically alter it, something that neither Lilith nor Inarius were able to do. This changed the resonance of the World Stone, and accelerated the restoration of the Nephalem powers within humanity. So when Uldyssian and his followers tore through the Triune's temples, Lilith suddenly realized that she's dealing with an Uldyssian who is far more powerful than she anticipated. Uldyssian succeeded in destroying the Triune, and in what must have been an epic boss fight, defeated Lilith. But again, Lilith is one crafty lady. She fools Uldyssian and even her son into thinking she died, while she actually managed to escape wounded. But you know who she didn't fool? Inarius. Unbeknownst to Uldyssian, Inarius found Lilith, and once again banished her to the void. But this time he had leveled up his banishment spell to ensure she couldn't escape. And that's the end of Lilith's part in this story. So with the Triune and Lilith gone, half of Uldyssian's job is done, and he sets his crosshairs on his next target, the Cathedral of Light. Will Uldyssian destroy the Cathedral of Light? Or will Inarius put a stop to this second generation of Nephalem? Will the high heavens interfere in this sin war? All these questions and more will be answered as we continue to explore this lore series. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and special thanks to my Twitch and Patreon supporters for making these videos possible. If you like what you see on this channel and want to support the creation of more videos, you can pledge on Patreon, where your support is immensely appreciated. We've got various rewards for backers, including monthly hangouts, Q&A, behind-the-scenes stuff, and more. If you enjoyed this video, please share it, check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Rhykker's Raiders for more Diablo content.